Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. So as noted in the chat, I will also be emailing this workshop out. So if you do need to leave early or if you have any questions, you can refer back to that as well. There's a ton of links in this workshop series. Honestly, it's more of a how-to after it's over in a way to allow you to be able to reference back to some of the items that we talked about. We do have a few more joining us as well. So my goal is to be monitoring the chat as we go on. If I do miss anything, feel free to unmute yourself, say, hey, wait, I have a question before you move on, you missed it. Feel free to do that. I'm happy to answer any questions as needed. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So again, welcome. My name is Natalie Newell. I work for the Multidisciplinary Studies and Bachelor of Applied Science programs as their advising manager. I started my journey at Boise State about 5 years ago. I actually graduated from Boise State after some time in the military. And I graduated with a communications degree and then went on to finish my master's in education. And I worked from being an admin to advisor to now the advising manager. So hopefully I know what I'm talking about. I think I do. But as of right now, I still help students within our programs with general advising. So first, I want to talk about just advising in general. So this is the inside scoop, yes, and part of that is just seeing what's available to you already. I think a lot of students don't realize how much power they have in their own education. And it's great to rely on your academic advisor, but it's also great to understand how advising works. It's literally the ultimate no judgment zone. You can talk to your advisor. We've seen it all. And we also understand life happens a lot, right? Whether it's you're working or you're not working, or you're going through a transition in life, or just school is new to you. It can be a bumpy road at times. And it's also really important to know that sometimes we have some rough semesters, and when you come back, it's almost hard to talk to people again, right? Because you're like, oh, I don't want them to see my last transcript. That's okay. We're here for you. There's no judgment at all. College is a choice. You're choosing to be here, and we honor that choice and try to work with you. The biggest thing is know your advisor by name. So try to remember that aspect. I'm going to show you a screenshot here shortly to show you a quick guide on where to find them. But it's important. And, sometimes you'll get a new advisor, but it's just important to stay in the loop, understand who your point of contact is. Second is your academic advisement report. So we like to call it your AAR. So you'll often see that maybe shorthand as far as what that means. And it's truly your map to get to graduation. So what that means is that and again, I'm going to show you a little brief snapshot of that here as well, but it shows you all the classes that you need to take, all the classes you have taken. So it's a little bit different than just your unofficial transcript, because it shows the courses that you've taken and how they apply to your degree. So it's this really awesome live time document that shows you exactly where you're at any given moment. So if you were to enroll in spring semester today, you could log into your academic advisement report and see those new classes reflected in your plan. And this is the document that the registrar uses to determine graduation. So while you're working with your advisor and you have these questions and you're wondering, where am I at? You can log in at any time and see your AAR. So I highly recommend doing that, even if you meet with your advisor once a semester. It's just important to know what's left for you to do. Academic adjustments. So in this case, this is a way for you to say, okay, I took class X at community college Y, and I think it belongs in this category. An academic adjustment is something that you can work with your advisor to try to adjust the AAR to reflect what you've taken. So they work together and in conjunction with each other. Most advisors will help fill that out for you, but you also have the power to fill those out yourself. And that's linked out to the adjustment form, so you can get familiar with that and have a good understanding of how you can manage your own degree. On that note, transfer credits. So if any of you have taken courses anywhere other than Boise State, which in our programs is usually pretty likely, you want to make sure that those apply to where you want them to. So when you think about the university as a whole, right, your transcripts get sent in, the registrar will evaluate those transcripts and determine what courses count as what in that process. Well, if they're not already in the system, sometimes they won't be able to read them correctly. So understanding transfer credits is really important, and working with your advisor to talk about what courses you've already taken will help you tenfold and help you get the credit that you deserve in courses where you think it might be. Now, common protocol for that is they'll need your course syllabus, and then you'll have to fill out an academic adjustment. But these are, again, process that you're not alone in, right? So you can work with your advisor on help on how to do that. W's versus F's. This is a big hot topic. So when it comes to your semester, you're taking classes and life has happened, or you're taking a class that you thought would maybe be really exciting, and halfway through the semester, you're realizing this is not what I was anticipating whatsoever. That's okay. Most of the time, we'll urge you to take a W. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to the academic calendar, and it will tell you right up until the last day you can drop a class for a W. What that means is you won't get a refund unless you have an extenuating circumstance of some kind, and you can file a petition for that. But it will help your overall GPA. Now, if you stay in the class and you don't drop it and you earn an F, that's going to hurt your GPA. The only way that you can counteract that on your record is by retaking the exact same class. So say you're taking a class that you're realizing and you change your major that you don't need and you just don't want to take the class, it's much better to take a W than it would be to fail out, because you won't need to retake that course in your new major, if that makes sense. Before doing anything, though, you want to make sure that you contact your academic advisor, just mull it over with them, see what they have to say about it. And then also, if you're using any financial aid, you always want to keep them in the loop. It does not hurt to send an email to say, this is what I'm thinking of. How can you help me make sure that I'm making the right decision? One of the biggest things that students do is they don't reach out. They just make decisions based on the way that life is happening. And while it's totally understandable to do that, you have a full support team behind you. Everybody at the university wants to see you succeed. So if in doubt, definitely reach out. It didn't mean to rhyme, but there it is. It's happening. One thing I like to recommend students is to have more than one goal, right? So you could have the overarching goal that I want to graduate from college, and that's awesome. But also think about, like, what do you want to gain from college, right? Maybe a goal of yours is to meal prep every day that you're going to do homework, or something along those lines, so you still feel like a whole person while you're working through and you're so busy, right? And I think sometimes we get so caught up in just the cycle of whether it be work and school or school full time and families and all those things, that it's really important to re-engage with yourself and figure out what are your goals for doing this, maybe a goal for after. I know for myself, it's, once I finished my program, right, once I graduated from my undergrad, I was like, you know what, I'm going to read for pleasure again. I'm going to pick up a novel that I don't have to do for class. And it can be very small things like that, but just it helps keep some checkpoints for you as you move along this journey. And I have this 2020 happening to you. And I know it's 2021. I'm very, very aware of that, but it just feels like it's ongoing, right? So even though we're in the new year and it's starting off fresh, a lot of the things that happened in the last year are still very, very present in our lives, right? So if you just feel, if you're out of work, or a sudden change in things that are happening to you, or if you're actually having a really great win, right? Share those things. Academic advising loves to hear that. We love to help you when you need it, but then also like live in your successes with you, because that's why we do what we do. And don't struggle alone. So academic advising is literally your team to get through this. So I have that old tiny photo up there in the corner, but I always tell my students that I'm like that person who's standing there waiting to connect you to the next person, right? Like I'm like the old timey operator. So just know that even if you just know one person's name, and if that one person's your academic advisor, then that's a win. So reach out to that person and say, hey, this might not even be in your department, but chances are we'll know where to send you. So just remember that we're on your team and we're here to help you get through this together. You're definitely not by yourself. And when I say get to know your teammates, it's get to know the staff around you. It's get to know people in financial aid, the registrar's office. We're all these little components of Boise State to get you to the finish line. And I think it's important for students to reach out to the appropriate departments as needed and not be afraid to do that. Again, there are thousands of students at Boise State, but you'd be surprised as to how each and every office can give really one-on-one care. Like the biggest office, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, is student financial services. Seems really scary because that's where you have to pay your money. It feels a bit like, ooh, I got to talk to my loan officer, and it's not like that. The team over there is wonderful, and they treat every student with care. So don't be afraid to get to know your teammates around campus. Okay, so this is an example of your Myboisestate account. Some of you may be familiar with this already, some of you may not, so it's just good for us to overview. Now we log in and we see this and we go exactly where. So you log in and you're like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go to my Bronco Mail right here. Well, and hopefully y'all can see that mouse there. Perfect, okay, so you'll click on your Bronco Mail and boom, go right into your email, or you already have your Bronco Mail set up. So the only time you go in your Myboisestate account is when you need to enroll in classes, which is gonna be down here at Student Center, or if you have online classes through Blackboard, or you might even have those bookmarked. It's really important to know how many resources you have just on this one page. Now, remember when I talked about knowing your advisor by name? It's always going to be right here on your Myboisestate account. I did copy and paste my own desktop, which feels a little vulnerable for me right now, but it's just a clear example of exactly what it looks like for a student account. So up here, it's going to have, my name, and then right here, oh, what's that? So that's going to be a hold. So I already know, hey, there's something I'm going to need to log into my Student Center and check out and see what's going on. It's going to give me my registration appointment time. So when in doubt, that's always going to be there. One little caveat is registration appointment is deceiving. It's not a real appointment. Don't show up. In my previous a few years ago, we'd always have students show up at 8 a.m. saying, I'm ready to register. And it's like, you could have stayed in bed or you could have done this from the office. Like, don't come in. So just keep in mind your registration appointment just means when you can actually log into Student Center and enroll in your classes. It's also going to list your major up here as well as here. So mine says graduate certificate, but yours would say, multidisciplinary studies and a certificate program in applied leadership. So it's going to have everything there. So if you're working on something and you log in and you don't see it posted, that's a problem, right? You want to make sure you're getting the credit where credit's due. So that would be a point of conversation to say, hey, I'm working on this business bridge to career certificate and minor, but I don't see it on my Myboisestate. Your advisor can log in and boom, see it's not there and give you the tools that you need to update that. Down here is an awesome source of information. So the academic calendar, that's where I talked about, you can see when the last day to drop with a W is, the last day to drop with a refund, when classes start. If you're taking 2 7-week sessions, okay, I need to map out my calendar and figure out what's going on. The Advising and Academic Support Center is going to be where you can find tutoring help. They have online tutoring now, which is really exciting, as well as general support. If you are on probation, if you're coming back from a dismissal, that's the office. They're the main advising hub, so to speak. So you meet with your academic advisor through your program. Therefore, more generalized help through their process there, through advising academic support. Buy My Textbooks will link you directly to the bookstore. Like, boom, it will already see your schedule. So you can log in, go to Student Center, enroll in classes, and then right after, click Buy My Textbooks, and it's going to link you right to the Boise State bookstore. Another note with that is, of course, encourage you to buy books at Boise State. Say you want to rent some textbooks, though, and you want to know exactly what book you need. You're still going to click on that Buy My Textbooks. You're not committed to buying anything through that link. It will just help give you the ISBN number, well, ISB number, not ISBN number, but and that will help you do some side searching. So if you want to go to the veteran bookstore, well, library, so you can go check out some books if you're a veteran student, great. It's a great way for you to see, okay, how can I rent my books on check and things like that. Change my major. This isn't just for changing majors, but it's also for adding items. So if you're going to double major, add a certificate, add a minor, it's all going to live through Change My Major. Enrollment verification is going to be if you need that for financial aid purposes. GPA calculator is awesome. So if you are questioning taking a W, right, and you want to see how is that, or versus to, so you're 6 weeks into the semester, you're really feeling like, okay, I'm either going to get a C or maybe I could take a P in the course, I could pass the course. That's a great way for you to test out what your GPA looks like and how it might be changed based on the grades that you might be earning in that term. My grades will just show you all the grades that you have thus far at Boise State or any that have transferred in. And then the bottom there is tutoring. And tutoring is going to link back to Academic Support Center. So they're fairly similar there. Another cool feature is that here, you can actually edit your student services. So here is where like the meat and the potatoes are, right? It's where all the action items are on your Myboisestate. You can edit this. And it's really cool. It gives you a ton of different options for you to see just kind of what is something that you're going to need on a frequent basis. I'll be honest, I have not changed my services in quite some time, and going through and playing around with it, there's quite some really exciting things on there. Engage we'll talk about a little bit later as well, but as well as the library, but it's just important to update. This is your page. Make the most sense for your journey through this time at Boise State. Okay, so to go back to the academic advisement report, this is just a little tutorial on how to find that report. So you'll log into your Student Center account, and through your student administration, you'll click Student Homepage. Then over here, you'll click Advising and Academic Progress. And then this is also a great page too, because it's going to show you those tasks, how to search for courses, which some of you may already be pretty familiar with because I think you're already enrolled, your records, financial aid, and then how many, do you owe money? Do you have a payment plan? What does that look like? So once let me go back here. So once you go ahead and click this Advising Academic Progress, you'll select My Academic Requirements. So it'll be here on the left-hand side, and it's going to pull this academic progress sheet up. This is going to show you everything that you're going to need to know about how an AAR works. My biggest recommendation is that you request it as a PDF. So once it populates, it's going to show you, it looks a little overwhelming at first, but it's going to show you all the things that are not satisfied. And that means the things that are outstanding for you to finish on your degree. I have a link to this as well. So if you want to refer back, there's going to be tutorials all over the map for you once this presentation's over. Okay, so the technology zone. So technology has been insane this last year as far as what it means for us as students, right? So whether you're in an online program, things have only improved. If you're taking courses on campus, I'm sure that maybe remote is now a new word in your language, right? To talk about how do we do the things that we do. I think the saying of the year was you're on mute, right? In every presentation that you've seen that Zoom, people start talking and, they're already halfway through their thought and they've been on mute the whole time. But anyway, so just a few items to cover here is that being a student, you have so many deals that, so many student discounts, so many different things. Now, some of you may not live in Idaho. You may not live in Boise. It's okay, you can still get a student ID card. So if you actually send them a photo that meets their parameters, they'll mail you one back, which is really awesome. And it allows you to use student discounts across the map. So be sure to look into that. Again, it will link out to more help on that, but utilize the discounts that you get as being a student. If you're in the area, for example, the Shakespeare Festival gives almost 40% off to students, which is a huge discount. So there's a ton out there. Who to contact for help. So, whether it's I'm not seeing something on my Blackboard or, I thought I enrolled in this course and now it's not showing up where I need it to, it's the help desk. They are amazing at what they do. So don't hesitate to reach out to them for any technical help when it comes to Blackboard, your course site, or it's just generalized like, hey, my PeopleSoft isn't working, or my Student Center, or my Myboisestate's being weird, or it's not showing the correct name. They are the one-stop shop for that. Google, we have access to Google. Really, Boise State uses Google left and right. So we use Google Documents, Google Sheets, Google Email. It's amazing. And if you are nervous about using Google, maybe for the first time, don't be. It's incredibly intuitive. And again, this link will send you a little bit more information on how to use the programs that are offered to you. We also get Microsoft Office through being a student at Boise State. So there's a lot of free programmings that you can put onto your devices for free. So Microsoft Office can cost up to $400 at sometimes, but you can get it for free just by being a student. Google Keep is my little tidbit. It's my little personal add-on that I love. So through your Boise State email, you can actually do it as an add-on. And so on your right-hand side or your left-hand side, wherever you decide, you can take notes to remind yourself of things that you need to do. I find using things like Google Keep and then also embedding the time that I need to work on certain things onto my calendar. So you might not be a Google Calendar type of person, but I'd recommend giving it a try. So whether that be I work from 8 to 5, okay, I'm gonna do my 10-minute quiz on my lunch break. I'm gonna add that into my calendar. I'm gonna put it into the calendar so I know that's something that I need to do. And just allowing yourself time. And also it's a really good way to say, okay, I enrolled in full-time credits, and you're starting to map out all the time it's going to take for you to do the homework, and you realize, I don't think I have full-time credits in my life. I don't think I have enough time to do all those things. It helps you just manage the time that you've put into something, and also maybe make some changes as needed. Learning remotely can be a challenge. And whether that is due to COVID-19 or not, learning remotely just has its own little tips and tricks along the way. And Boise State has really developed quite a lot of resources to help students guide, just whether it's, I've never used a headset before in my life, and all of a sudden I'm working from home. So just little things like that to help work through any kinks that might be happening with just the remote learning process. And then the Office of the Registrar, they have a wonderful resource guide, and I will show you a few of those as well. So I know that I'm generalizing a lot of things, but I'm going to go back and show you exactly what the links look like. So even more resources. So the biggest thing, again, is do not be afraid to reach out. That's, if you take away anything from this, it's know your advisor's name and don't hesitate to reach out. And also, when in doubt, Google. It's amazing. I use it all the time, and I've worked at Boise State for 5 years. You think I'd have more bookmarks, but I just don't. So I'll start at the bottom then. But if you are thinking, what was that form? Or, what's the academic calendar again? Don't be overwhelmed by the website. Honestly, if you do academic calendar Boise State on Google, it's amazing what will show up. So just a heads up, don't hesitate to reach out, or when in doubt, just go ahead and Google it and just add Boise State to the end of it, and you'd be surprised what you can find. Again, we've talked a lot about, like, if life happens, right, reach out. Well, there are some resources like the emergency fund. It's a one-time grant of around $400 given to students who are in need. So that can mean a lot of different things. It's not dependent on financial aid. It's not dependent on your FAFSA or anything like that. So if you're just feeling the pinch of the semester or the year, or something's going on, you have the resource to apply for the Dean of Students Emergency Fund. And again, that link will send you straight to it, and it's a one-time shot. So once you apply for that emergency fund, that's the only time that you can receive it. There's also, so I talked about student financial services. So there's financial aid, which is one office that monitors your FAFSA, your Pell, your loans, and your scholarships. And then there's student financial services that handles all the money piece of it, right? Like the actual exchanging of money to pay for your courses. You can do what's called a fee appeal. So if you drop a course, if you've had an extenuating circumstance in your life and you've had to withdraw from your classes, once you withdraw after a certain point, according to the academic calendar, you won't get a refund. Well, a fee appeal allows you to say, here's the event that happened in my life. Can I please get a refund? And we see a lot of success with that. It's an understanding office and an understanding committee. And so we want to help students succeed. And so they will review those and decide whether or not your tuition can be refunded based on the withdrawal. Now, that doesn't just mean that you can depend on that, right? It is reviewed by a committee of people, and it's, again, for that extenuating circumstance. Then another great service that they provide is you can do a payment plan. So you can register for your classes and decide I can't pay for it all up front, and you can do 3 tiers payments. So it's one payment per month for 3 months to pay for your fees. There is a $30 charge for that, but it does help alleviate some of that pressure that's there when you see that upfront tuition bill. If you are having issues paying your fees, do not hesitate to reach out to their office. So they want to help you as long as they can help you, right? So if they don't know that you're trying, then they can't help you in the way that is needed. So in that case, be sure to reach out to Student Financial Services, let them know of your situation, and see if they can help work with you. At least, if anything, it will help prevent the worst case, which is something like going to collections. They're very approachable. Again, they're very friendly. Don't be scared of them, I promise. With that said, if you're using financial aid, some things that financial aid is a 3-tiered process, in the sense that you need to file a FAFSA. That FAFSA is processed to the university, and then the aid is given based on how many credits you're in. Now, say you're a returning student and you have, I've seen upwards of 200 credits come transferred in. Now, it's 120 to earn a degree. So that's well above that threshold for financial aid. So the Department of Ed says we need to monitor satisfactory academic progress. So they want to make sure that the aid that you're pulling is going towards college. So if you get what's called a SAP hold put on your account, again, you're going to contact your advisor and work through that process. It just means that they want to ensure that you're taking courses that make sense for your degree. They don't want you to take out loans that you don't need, that aren't going to apply in the right way. The Office of the Registrar. So the registrar itself they handle transcripts, right? They handle courses and that type of process. So there is a gaggle of forms that you can find through them. And I know that's not exactly exciting, but it's good to know what your resources are and what's available to you. And so I would highly recommend checking out what they have to offer as far as forms is concerned. With that, it's going to be dropping after deadline forms, catalog updates. So just items like that. So very administrative tasks are all going to be found through the registrar. And again, when in doubt, Google is your friend, I promise. So connecting to Boise State. So being an online student can be, or say non-traditional, or there's so many different ways to say this, but it can feel very hard to feel connected to the university. I think more so now than ever, we're seeing that that's a real need, right? So we want to make sure that students feel like they are truly connected and getting the most out of their degree. So the biggest thing is you want to network. So even as an online student, you want to make sure that you're reaching out to people in your classes. Make an impression on your instructor. Make sure they know who you are and you're not just one of the many in the masses, right? And make real connections. Don't hesitate to reach out and chat your fellow classmates. For my master's program, we had a cohort Facebook group. Many of your programs offer social media sites as well. And it's a really cool way for you to feel connected with people across the country or even in the same state as you or even the same town. You can still make impressions on each other even as an online student. Another kind of win to that is that down the road, you may decide, hey, I want to do a graduate program, or I want to do a special certificate, or I'm trying to apply for a job and I need a solid reference that knows that I'm a hard worker. You'll have a full network of people to reach out to, especially instructors. So that was one thing I wish I would have known in my undergrad, is that it wasn't just showing up to class and doing the work and then going home and saying, okay, great, I'm not going to think about this again. It was really making sure that I was making real relationships with my instructors and that they knew who I was. And often, sometimes I wanted to talk to them about careers and I didn't know how to do it. I felt awkward. It was only later that I realized how important that was when I needed to go back and try to get a letter of recommendation for what I had been doing for the last 2 years of my life. Like I said, I went a little bit unorthodox because I was in the military for quite some time. So I didn't spend quite as much time at the university as, say, like a quote unquote traditional student, but with one semester can land you a really solid letter of recommendation. One semester can give you enough of a bond with an instructor to become a TA, things that will create a lasting network that you want to make sure that you're utilizing. Another way to do that as well is to do an internship. So in many programs, even as an online student, you can do an internship in your local area. I've even seen internships happen at a distance, which is really cool. I think now we're really seeing that remote work and doing things at a distance can be achievable. So if you think it could be an option, bring it up. You never know. It's really exciting to work through what your goals are with your advisor and see how they can help you make the best selection in courses that you need for your degree. And also for after, right? Like what's next? It's really important to be vulnerable and honest. I know it's cliche. I know it's just, you've heard it all the time, but you really get out what you put in. And that's really what college is all about. It's about engagement. It's about understanding and realizing that we're all in a box right when we start college, but it's seeing outside of that box. It's understanding those around you and making real connections. I have a student, for example, who is a little stubborn. Doesn't want to take some of the classes they're required to take and is really set on this one way of thinking. And, we really talked about it and just said, you know what, if you can do anything, it's just to create a respectful environment, right? Where you can talk about your differences. And at the end of the day, you don't have to change you don't have to change your mind. That's not what it's about. It's just about understanding where other people come from, right? And you really have an opportunity to do that, even in online classes, or if you're attending in person, just commit to it, really decide that this is something that you really want to take something out of. You can definitely still get involved as an online student. It's called Engage. So it was, again, on your Myboisestate account there at the bottom. Engage is where you signed up for this web series, right? It's a great way for you to find students like you, students who are interested in the same interests. A lot of it's at a distance. It's a great way to find workshops and just more ways for you to connect to the university. Some of those workshops you can think about, they could go on your resume. You know, things that you've done as far as training and development. Those are ways that you can really beef up your resume for next steps if that's what you decide. And a lot of them, most of them at this point, are going to be remote and online. So definitely utilize all of that, and it's all free. So if you think about a conference that you want to go through for work, or maybe eventually, right? Those cost money, and this is a great way for you to utilize something that's free that you can still put on your resume as an achievement that you've worked on outside of courses. I just love resources, and I realize that resources can be challenging to put into a web series, but mostly it's just so you have this access to this after. And as an online student, the biggest kicker, well, and I'm saying online, I realize that many students might be coming from different populations, and that's me stuck in my world as an online advisor and manager, but Albertsons Library is amazing. You can access everything from the website. So peer-reviewed articles, it's all free. As a student, you get access to virtually everything for free. It's amazing. And it's an amazing resource that you don't have to pay for. You just get by being a student. And you can get everything that you can really in the library online by doing the searches through there. So definitely recommend utilizing the Albertsons Library. I think sometimes we think like, oh, the library, I'm not attending courses on campus, or I'm attending at maybe one of our other sites or whatever I may be, but the Albertsons Library is open 24/7, so online. So that's where I would highly recommend going. The EAC, so the Educational Access Center. So if you have, if you need extra time on tests, if you have a diagnosed medical condition that makes things more, where you need extra resources, the Educational Access Center is the great place to go. So they can really help you out with any additional needs that you might need from your instructors. And you can do everything online. So you can set up your account through them, upload any documents that they might need to make those determinations. And again, those are all free resources for you. The Career Center is, don't tell them, or don't tell the rest of them I said this, but the Career Center is my favorite resource that you get as a Boise State student. I actually developed my first resume post-military, post-college through the Career Center, and they were able to help me get the job that I wanted just by resume development. And sometimes you think, well, there's 500 tutorials on that online. Well, they actually have real trained people there who you can send all your information to, and they can help put that together for you in a resume. They can help you with interviewing and job searching and understanding what it is. What do you want to do? What do you want to do after this? Who do you want to be? And because we're always deciding and we're always working that out. So Career Center is an amazing resource to help you figure out next steps. They're also great if you are interested in internship. So all internships essentially are moved through the Career Center, then back to the program. So if you are interested in that, also jobs, student jobs, jobs outside of the university, it's a great resource for next steps. Again, student financial services, they will help you with any payments that you need, any questions about tuition rates. You have a weird wonky charge on your account and you don't understand it, they're there to help explain those items to you. And financial aid is going to be your one-stop shop for all that is loans, grants, and scholarships. And AASC, we talked about a little bit earlier, so free online tutoring, workshops. ACAD, those are courses that help with learning development. So whether you're a brand new online student, you might be interested in ACAD class. So it might be about learning your resources in a full class to earn credit for it. And just overall study skills. So they really help students just understand time management. Maybe the way that you're studying, you're studying 14 hours in a week and you pulled a C on the test and you're like, I know I can do better, or I feel a little unsatisfied with that, how much time I spent. Well, maybe it's your skill. Maybe you need to brush up on those study skills. So don't hesitate to reach out. Again, all of those resources available to you as a student. So with that said, not to sound too cheesy or bleeding heart, but truly, you are a Bronco now. You're part of the Boise State community. even at a distance, it's really important to remember that you are part of this, right? And you're choosing to be here, and that you have to give yourself a pat on the back. So even when times get really rough, just remind yourself you have a team, you have a network, you have an academic advisor who's here to be your one-stop shop with all things Boise State. So at the end of this, if you're like, I don't even know what you talked about, but I do know I need to learn my advisor's name, that's great. It's a win. And empower yourself to stay connected and informed. So informed is understanding your AAR, understanding the courses that you've completed already, and understand how that applies to your degree. We often hear those nightmare stories like, well, my advisor told me to take class X and I didn't need it, and it was extra, money and things like that. While that's not the mission of academic advising whatsoever, and while I want to tell you that's never going to happen to you, if you stay informed, you can really work with your advisor to make those next steps versus just kind of giving them the wheel and making them drive. You can really be essentially their co-pilot. I meant to go somewhere with that and it didn't, but I hope you understand what I mean overall. I would just like to show you, if anyone does have any questions, I'm happy to hear them. And feel free to drop them in the chat too if you don't want to get too involved. But I did want to just show you a few items that I did talk about. So here, boisestate.edu/OIT Myboisestate. Now this again is linked in the presentation. This is going to tell you so many different items. So remember how I said, hey, how to customize your service menu? It's going to give you play-by-play instructions here. Our OIT department has created these wonderful tutorials on how to do things. So advisement report, it's everything I just mapped out, and it's right there. A lot of times, like one big thing is, oh, I've enrolled in courses and I've never dropped a course. How do I do that? And it's these awesome visuals to tell you exactly how to get to where you need to. And it's wonderful. It's so helpful. Not to sound like I'm 5,000 years old, but they didn't do that before. These are all fairly new over the last few years. They really listen to students and advisors to say, hey, we need a little more help in helping students understand the process and how things work. And again, this is where that really awesome Google function is too, where you can say, drop a course, Boise State, and you'll link right to where you need to. How to get a Bronco card. So this is through the information desk. So this is more information on here. So you can do mobile instructions, desktop instructions, and you can be at a distance. So they tell you exactly what you need to know in order to get that ID card ordered through there. And they will send that out to you, which is really cool. The Office of the Registrar. So it seems, I know this seems very overwhelming, but I promise you, once you know what you're looking for, right? So if you're how to run an academic advising report, how to run a what if. So a what if, so say you decide you want to change majors completely, but you want to understand how your credits apply to that new major, you're going to do what's called a what if report. And this is instructions on how to do that, printing your class schedule. Yeah, just tons of good resources here. And then the Student Emergency Fund I wanted to highlight as well. So this is on the Dean of Students website, support for students, financial assistance, and then the emergency fund. And it's going to tell you what you can use it for, what you can't use it for. There's also a ton of other resources like free legal. Like you don't even have to be in the state to get free legal. Obviously, like there is some caveats with that, right? If you're working out of state, but they can give you assistance. They can help you and also help you give you resources if you are out of state. The campus food pantry, if you are local, you totally have access to that, even if you're an online student. So tons of stuff. I think that's the moral of this story is that, at the end of the day, there's just going to be a lot out there for you to access. So I'll welcome any questions. I think we're done a little early, which I tend to talk a little too quickly most of the time, but everyone who RSVP'd will get a copy of the video and then also the slides. So you'll have that as a reference point from here on out. Great. Well, I'm so glad for all of you to join. I really appreciate it. I hope this was helpful. And if anything, just know that advisor's name. I gave you a 40-minute presentation just so you at least know that. But if you have any questions in the future, feel free to reach out to me. I know that I may not be your advisor, but I'm happy to get you connected. So if you say you are truly, trying to figure out next steps, I'm happy to be a resource for that. But I hope everyone has a really great rest of their day. And yeah, good luck. Happy spring semester. And yeah, thank you for joining me.